All right, now recently Bill Young passed away. He is from Florida. He was 82 years old. He'd been a congressman for just about 128 years straight down there. And when he passed away, there was, of course, a big funeral, lots of congressmen, senators, dignitaries that were there. And he was an institution in Congress. I was no fan of Bill Young. Let me just state that right off the top. He's the guy who recently on camera, when asked whether the minimum wage should be increased, said, "Get a job." Fairly nonsensical because the people who get the minimum wage, by definition, already have a job. So he was not much of a fan of the working class, if you ask me. Now, look, he's passed away, so it is what it is, right? But then I noticed something in his story that I found to be interesting. And I noticed this because they recently had a special election there, and that district was getting a lot more coverage. Now, one of the most incompetent politicians in America, Cenk, lost that district when she had no business losing it to Dave Jolly, who is a Republican lobbyist. He's now the congressman from Bill Young's former district. Great. So not much has improved. But what was interesting is at that funeral, Bill Young's family came up. He's got a wife, of course, that he's married to, and that's the wife that almost everybody knows him as having for a long time. They've been married almost 30 years. And he's got 3 kids. But what was interesting is that one of his kids came up to speak near the end of the funeral and said, "I'd like to mention Bill Young's other family." Turns out, not at the same time, but Bill Young had a family earlier in his life. He actually dropped out of high school, which is interesting. So that part of the story is kind of, inspiring. He was 18 years old. He married his high school sweetheart at the age of 17, dropped out of high school, but became a congressman anyway. And in fact, he had, it turns out, been married to her for 36 years. But gotten divorced under a situation that I will explain in a second. But his wife, who had been with him for 36 years, not mentioned at the funeral. And then until the very end, they did not talk about 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren from that wife. Now, the only person who mentioned, like I said, is one of his kids from the second marriage. Said, "Hey, you know what? Some of them are here. I don't want to call them out and have them speak if they're not ready for it. But they should at least be acknowledged." There was this whole, slideshow with all sorts of pictures, and his first family is not mentioned at all in them. Now, article from a little while back, so right at the beginning of this year, by Andrew Meacham, Tampa Bay Times writer, actually talked to his first family and found out that, well, they're a little annoyed that Bill Young didn't spend much time with them for the last 30 years or so, to say the least. Now, they say that they kept reaching out to him, but he oftentimes would not reach back, and their voicemails would go unanswered, etc. In fact, Pamela Ernest, who's his daughter from the first marriage, said that it got to where I think it was hard to push back when I didn't get the call back. Now, it turns out that part of the reason that might have happened is his second wife, Beverly Young. Beverly Young was Bill Young's 26-year-old secretary when they first met. Now, at the time, Bill Young was not so young. He was 51 years old. Now, it's unclear when they started their affair, but they most certainly did. And in fact, they had an out-of-wedlock child. Now, I'm given to understand that Republicans find that quite deplorable. And in fact, they say that that is one of the big causes of the problems in America. And I'm given to understand that usually it's Jay-Z or Beyonce causing that issue. But interestingly enough, 30 some odd years ago, Bill Young had that issue without any of them being around. Fascinating. Now, to be fair to Billy Young, he did make an honest woman out of Beverly Young. They got married 8 days after his divorce was finalized to his first wife. Very classy. Okay. Now, there's one other twist to that story that I'm going to tell you in a second. Now, Beverly Young is none too happy that the old family is speaking out. She says, they're going to use the media to try to get back at me. It's been 30 years and it's a joke. He had nothing to do with them and he wanted nothing to do with them after he tried in the beginning. He would tell me to tell you they are not his family. Yeah, I don't know about that, and I don't know that I take your word for it. There's a story in the Tampa Bay Times about how Bill Young goes to deliver Christmas presents to his son, Terry, and to his grandkids. And Terry's like, oh, thank God, finally I get to see you. Hey, you want to just step in for a second? I mean, he used to play Santa Claus with his first family, and he was really proud of that. That was a Christmas tradition they had. The grandkids really want to see you. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't. And he had to run back to a car where Beverly Young was waiting. Okay. Now, I'm not putting words in Beverly Young's mouth. She's the one saying these things, right? She goes on to say, it's sad that after 30 years, Marion Young, who was his first wife, still can't accept the fact that he never loved her. She attempted to make him stay in a loveless marriage by having her children. But once they were out of his home and grown adults, he wanted to experience real love, life, and happiness. And that's what we did. We did it when, where, and how we wanted to. Real class. She's also the one that disinvited several people from Bill Young's funeral, and thinking that they were his political opponents. Perhaps they were her political opponents. She supported David Jolly, that Republican lobbyist for that seat, when her own son said that he was unaware that his father had picked Jolly as his favorite candidate, as Beverly Young claimed. She tried to basically disown him and said, I have no relationship to him, referring to her own son. Real class act. The question is, what kind of person is Bill Young? How do you have a family for 36 years? And then you get married to your secretary, and to be fair, by the time they got married, she was 29 and he was 54. And then you just, forget your ex-wife. You don't speak to your kids. They're still your kids, man. Now, there is one person who thought not inviting and not showing in the pictures or having them speak at the funeral of his first family was outrageous. And that was actually Bill Young's brother, 79-year-old Tom Young. He said, that upset everybody that I knew that they pulled that, because if it wasn't for Marion, Bill would not be where he was anyway. She backed him 100%. She even made his suits. When he was running for Congress, his first wife, Mary Young, had supported him. And, like Tom Young says, literally stitched his suits together. They did it together. They built his congressional career. And then when he got a 26-year-old secretary in a relationship and eventually pregnant, well, he didn't have use for her anymore. Now, here comes the cherry on top. Less than a year after he had dumped his wife of 36 years and those kids, which he hardly talked to in the next 3 decades, the Christian Voice, one of the leading religious lobbying groups in America, gave him the Family and Freedom Award. Perhaps that should have been Freedom from Your Family Award. Well, the freedom part is true. I guess he was free to leave his wife and his kids behind. When you see these guys run on family values as Billy Young did his entire career as a conservative Republican, don't ever believe the hype. Remember the story of Bill Young's first family and how he couldn't give a damn about them for the last 30 years of his life.